Why, hello everybody, welcome to my Blender YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of using Blender. In this case, we're going to be learning first on how to grab, scale, and rotate things. So the first thing you're going to do is select an object in your scene when you first open up Blender. In this case, it's just the default cube. No, we're not going to sacrifice it. Instead, we're just going to make sure that it's selected using your selection method of choice, if you will. In this case, I'm a right-click select kind of guy. So anyway, today we're going to be using the default cube for this example. So with that being said, if we hit G, as you can see, once it's hitting G, you don't have to hold it down, then you can go ahead and actually just move the box around by moving your mouse. That's pretty sweet. You can then right-click to let go of it, and that works just fine. With that being said, the next thing we can do is rotate it. So in this case, we're going to hit R for rotate, and that's pretty self-explanatory, and then S to scale something. Yay, cool. Fun fact real quick. If your mouse is, say, over here, and this part of the, Blender panel, if you will, and the properties panel, and you hit any of these things, it's not going to do anything over here. Blender is like context sensitive where your mouse is. So essentially wherever your mouse is, well, that's basically the window from which it's operating in. So any of the hotkeys that you're learning today, make sure that you're actually using these in the 3D viewport, i.e. anything that has this fun little grid pattern on it, if you will. Unless, of course, you decide to get rid of the grid pattern, but that's aside from the fact. So, regardless, today we're going to be learning about those things. So in this case, let's learn about grabbing things. So we can hit G, and that grabs that. Nice. But what if you wanted to constrain it on, say, like that green line, right? Or the red line, i.e. one of the axes, right? So as you can see here, the red is represented by a X, and then the green is represented by Y, and then the blue is represented by Z. Thing is, though, what's really cool in Blender is if you just hit X on the keyboard, fun fact, it actually constrains that to you. And then Y on the keyboard, yep, that's exactly it. And then Z, yay, we actually all put that together. Nice, we can right click out of that, sweet. And that same methodology works with everything else. So for rotation, same thing. So on the X, on the Y, on the Z, there we go. Same thing with scaling. So scale on X, Y, Z, nice. The other thing too to kind of keep in mind is that wherever your mouse is, so if my mouse is over here and the actual origin of the actual model that I'm working with, in this case, this little tiny orange dot here, depending on your theme, but this little tiny orange dot here, that's the origin point of your mesh. We'll go into that later, actually, what that means, but it's like this. The closer that your mouse is to this, the more sensitive the movement's going to be in very, very basic terms. So if I hit S for scaling and my mouse is really close to it, if I move my mouse a little bit, it gets pretty big pretty quick. Nice. All right, now on the other hand, if my mouse is, say, like all the way out here, pretty far away from it, I hit S, then suddenly to get bigger, it's going to take a little bit more mouse movement, right? On the other hand, going back the opposite way, right? Let's say if I wanted to scale it inward, oh, it gets pretty small pretty quick. So again, mouse sensitive contextual kind of movements here, or translations, what have you. Pretty nice. Sweet. So that's the basics of just grab, scale, and rotate. Now, all these things can also be achieved using one of the widgets over here, like the Move widget. We love this. Truth be told, to keep this on for a lot of different things, but regardless, you can actually just standard just click and drag on any of these axis marks, if you will, or do multiples, for instance, like so. You can also do that same operation with the hotkeys as well, so we can hit G, and then if you instead, let's just say if you don't want it to move on the Z axis while you're just moving it around, you can hit Shift and then Z to leave out Z, all the movement. And if we hit Shift and then Y, we'll leave out Y, and then Shift and then X, we'll leave out X. There you go. Cool, right? Nice. And that's the basics of how to actually grab, scale, and rotate things in Blender.